Everyone, and good day, ma'am. So today I will discuss about memory, remembering, and forgetting. That is lesson number 15. So what is memory? So memory is the capacity to retain the learned material for a longer period of time and reproduce it through recognition or recall when it required. So memory has a great role to play in our learning and knowledge acquisition. Memory is the special ability of our mind to store when we learn something and to recollect and reproduce it after some time. Memory is the complex process involving learning, retention, recall, and recognition. So the experiences which we undergo leaves traces in our minds in the form of schemas. So the length of our retention depends on the strength and quality of the traces. So that is memory. So let's go to remembering. Remembering is a process of developing association and sustaining the same by practice. So, ibig sabihin, when we memorize, we remember. Because the process of memorization begins with the interactions of one's sense organ with one's environment. Then it goes to sensory storage and pause for a second. There seems to be a sensory storage for each sense, the visual, auditory, smell, taste, and touch. However, visual and auditory storages system referred to as iconic storage and echoic storage. So other sense organs have also storage named as haptic. The sensory information passing through the sensory stores either disappears within a second or pass to a short-term store. Here, information stays about 20 seconds. In case short-term store is able to hold information up to 20 minutes, then it may go to the long-term store. For transferring information from one short-term to long-term, one can use many control process. Rehearsal is one such activity, and coding and other mental activities may aid long-term memory. So the stored as well as organized information in the long-term store in the coded form is transferred back to the short-term store where it is decoded and employed for responses as desired and ordered by the brain. So that is how we remember. So let's go to the components of memory. Dito meron tayong apat. We have learning, retention or storage, recall or retrieval, and recognition. So let's talk about learning. So learning is chronologically precedes memory. It is the process of registering the impressions or acquiring new knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and so on. The teacher has to be concerned about learning process to use very profitably various principles of remembering established by numerous experiments. So that is learning. The second one is the retention. So retention, this is the ability to store information and remember. So the process of retaining appears to be passive, but it is not wholly so. A good amount of mental activity goes on in connection with the process of retention. The ability to retain seems largely determined by genetic constitution. So the decline of retention in the old age is due to the decline of the functioning of the brain. So ibig sabihin, pag tumatanda tayo, kaya tayo kulang yung ating retention kasi it is because of the functions of our brain. Okay. So, number 3, we have recall or retrieval. So what is recall? We learn in order to recall when we need. Of course. So failure to recall learned material would mean that our learning process has not been useful and effective. Recall is more difficult than learning. Recall is greatly affected by emotions and motivation both at the time of learning and subsequently. And the last one is recognition. Parallel to recall, recognition is another factor in the process of memory. Recognition is awareness of previous experience. It is completely familiarity without any mistake. Recognition is rather a type of experience than a sort of behavior. Recognition is simpler and more reliable too. For good retention, recall and recognition go side by side. So recognition may appear to be passive behavior, but in fact, recognition may also is an active process where perceptual process comes into play. So those are the four components of memory. Let's go to types of memory. So first is the immediate memory. This memory is when the individual has to reproduce immediately after he has learned something. Thus, the time span is very less for the matter to be registered in the consciousness. Kaya siya remembering for a short time and forgetting rapidly. So hence, the learned matter is forgotten rapidly. Example, we may first look at the seat number of our ticket, and once we sit down, we forgot about it. In this type of memory, the retention time is very brief. Immediate memory is needed, which help us to learn brief. So second one, we have short-term memory. So this may last as long as 30 seconds if the material is not being rehearsed. This kind of memory is also called temporary memory. It is not short-lived as the immediate memory. The information temporarily stored in a short-term memory may last as 30 seconds even if the material is not being rehearsed. However, some people are able to retain much more information in short-term memories by process called chunking, which groups information by coding it. So example of chunking is the number 143-254-376 can be remembered by listing under three heads: 143, 254, 376 for better remembering. Third one is the long-term memory. So this is also known as permanent memory. Here, the individual learns and retains the information for a very long period of time. There is an interval of time between learning and recall or reproduction. Thus, permanent memory is involved. Example, knowing our account number of the bank or the phone number. So, that is long-term memory. The fourth one is the rote memory. So, under rote memory, things are learned without understanding their meaning. Number 5 type, we have logical memory. Logical memory is based on logical thinking. 6. Associated memory. This memory helps to associate the previously learned things with so many related things and then establish multiple connections. 7th type of memory is the active memory. In active memory, one has to remain active and make deliberate attempts for recollecting the past experience. So that is active memory. The 8th, yung pangwalong type ng memory is the passive memory. Here, the past experiences are recalled spontaneously without any serious attempt. The 9th type, we have episodic memory. This is the memory of specific personal experiences. And the last type of memory is the sensory memory. Sensory impressions retain that knowledge. So we have 4 senses that is also a memory. So we have auditory memory, that is memory of auditory impressions. We have visual memory, memory of visual impressions. Tactile memory, memory of touch is rich in blind. Olfactory memory, we have memory of smell, and then gustatory memory, it is the memory of taste. So those are the types of memory. So let's go to forgetting. Forgetting is being unable to find the correct information from the mind at the given situation. Forgetting can be temporary at times when later we can remember the names and action. And it is also permanent when in no situation we are able to recall the information. For instance, a poem you have learned in your elementary school might have been forgotten at least partially. This inability to recall previously learned materials is essential aspect of learning process. So, yung forgetting could be normal, but sometimes could be abnormal. So, ganun yun. So, again, yung normal forgetting and abnormal forgetting ay mahulog din po pala sa kinds of forgetting. So, we have two kinds of forgetting. We have the normal forgetting and the abnormal forgetting. So, let's get to know what is normal forgetting. So, normal forgetting is the result of different types of cause. So, meron tayong mga causes kung bakit nagkakaroon ng normal forgetting. So, first one is we have decay through disuse or theory of decay. So, according to this view, the vivid informations created in the cerebral cortex fade away as time passes. Such fading or decay could be the result of the normal metabolic processes of the brain. As time passes, these processes might cause the traces of material once learned to disintegrate gradually and eventually to disappear altogether. So that is decay through disuse or theory of decay. And second one is interference or association or theory of interference. So itong interference or association, here we see that forgetting is not caused by just fading away of traces, but by influence of the intervening activities. So meron siyang dalawang klase. We have retroactive interferences, in which learning works backward and interferes with old learning. And the second one is the proactive inhibition or interference. Here, what we have learned previously interferes with the new learning. Forgetting in our daily life is more due to the proactive interference. Our ability to recall what we have learned is reduced by experiences previously learned. So that is interference of association. The third cause of normal forgetting is theory of repression or motivated forgetting. So the two earlier theories are physiological process of affecting mental trace or interference in learning. But here, a person is not given importance. For some people, forgetting is a psychological process, whereby the unpleasant or conflicting experiences are repressed and pushed into the unconscious and forgotten. Thus, repression is done because it may cause anxiety to remember the experiences. So, example is remembering loved ones whom we will never see again. So, that is theory of repression. Fourth one, emotions or emotional disturbance. Fear, anxiety, stage fright may paralyze recall. Rising emotions like fear or anger or love lead to forget the learned experiences. Example, student afraid of a teacher may forget what has been learned. The fifth cause of normal forgetting is change of stimulus condition. We may have learned in a specific environment, but we forget in the changed environment. Example, we can say the speech well at home, but in front of the audience, we are unable to speak. 6. Mental and physical ill health or poor health. This prevents us from remembering learning material. Of course, pag hindi tayo malusog, hindi din ganun ka-condition ng ating brain to learn something. 7th cause of normal forgetting is lack of interest. So, lack of interest or willingness all lead to forgetting. The last one is no meaning. If the learning is not meaningful, forgetting occurs, as it does not give scope for the development of relationships. So, those are the causes of normal forgetting. So, the second kind of forgetting is the abnormal forgetting. This abnormal forgetting may result from external causes such as injury to the brain due to accident or otherwise retention amnesia. Okay, so we have here factors which helps improve memory and minimize forgetting. So we have first, will to learn. Learning is better achieved when there is a drive to learn. Thus, without intention, not much learning is achieved. Second, interest and attention. Interest and attention are essential for useful learning and memorization. A person who has no interest in what he learns will not give due attention to it and consequently will not be able to learn it. Third is the overlearning. If subject matter is properly learned, then the retention will be high. Fourth, meaningfulness. If the subject matter taught to students is meaningful and it has been presented to them in an organized manner, it will be retained for a long period of time. Panglima, following the principle of association. A thing never should be learned in an isolated manner. An effort should be made to connect it with previous learning on the one hand and with as many related things possible on the other. The sixth one, grouping and rhythm. Grouping and rhythm also help and facilitate learning and help in remembering. For example, telephone number is learned better when digits are grouped. Seventh, using as many senses as possible. So senses are said to be the gateways of knowledge. And it has also been found that things are better learned and remembered when they are presented through more than one senses. So dapat involve lahat ng senses para magiging maganda yung learning. Hindi lang yung tenga, kundi pati mata. Hindi lang yung mata, pati tenga. At of course, yung mga kamay. Next is learners' internal factors. So the attention should be given to the student's physical and mental well-being. His emotions should be trained and emotional tensions removed as far as possible. Next is provisions for change and proper rest. Adequate provision for rest, sleep, and variety in the work should be made as this helps to relieve fatigue and monotony. So, pahinga muna kung pagod, kagaya ng kung sa school, dapat may mga icebreaker. So, ganun ang purpose ng mga icebreaker para makondition ulit yung mind natin to learn another thing. Next is repetition and recitation. Finally, repetition and continuous practice add to the effectiveness of memorization. Intelligent repetition with full understanding always helps the making learning effective and enduring, and things repeated and practiced frequently are remembered for a long time. Next is making use of SQ4R techniques. So Thomas Robinson developed this strategy for effective learning and memorization. And we have the last one, making use of mnemonics. This system makes use of the use of visual imagery to provide useful association and connections for remembering the required materials. Example is peg word method tell us how the counting is learned with the help of rhythmic association of places like 1 is gun, 2 is a shoe, and so on. So those are the factors which helps improve memory and minimize forgetting. So that ends my report. To conclude this lesson, before I bid goodbye, I may say that memory and forgetting are common phenomenon experienced by everybody. Life would have been happier if we would remember the most of what we learn. Learning itself is not enough, but important thing is whether we remember or not. Memory has a great role to play in our learning and knowledge acquisition. Therefore, it is important and it is imperative for us teachers to know the dynamics of memory and forgetting so that we may understand the students better and help them by enhancing their memory, resulting in better performance. Thank you again for listening. Good day, everyone.